Welcome to Indiana Basketball Weekly on the Gruely True Sports Network. I'm your co-host for the Indiana Basketball Weekly show, Mike Goodpaster. And right now I'd like to welcome my other co-host, remember the 1981 national champion Indiana Hoosiers, and as he reminds me and Collin all the time, a member of the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame. Help me welcome to the show, Steve Risley.
Good evening, gentlemen. And listen, Collin will be a member of the Hall of Fame. I think you have to wait so many years to get there, but he'll be a first ballot inductee.
Well,
there's no doubt.
How many ballots did it take for you?
33.
33.
Yeah,
okay, so Collin should be able to beat that, I think. Next up.
That hurts.
We go to...
It hurt bad. It hurt bad. And it was expensive.
We go to another Indiana legend. A member of the Big Ten championship team. And I like to bring that up just because Steve makes fun of me later because I talk about Big Ten championships. Collin Hartman. How you doing, Collin?
I'm doing well, fellas.
I don't even know where all my Big Ten rings are. I mean, they're spread out everywhere. I think.
Hey, how about this? Why don't you hang the phone up and go find them? All right, the Indiana Hoosiers beat the Central Arkansas Bears.
Like doorstops or, things like that. We don't really get you wrapped around the axle about Big Ten rings.
So you're not going to look for them. So we'll talk about the game then. Indiana 86, Central Arkansas 53. IU shot 56% from the field, held Central Arkansas to 31%. Collin, were you happy with this performance?
Yeah, I think that's easy for a team to come off a win like we did against Butler and come out very, very flat and not blow this team out. I've been on teams like that, and you see it all over the country where a team wins a big game, and then they kind of take their foot off the brake or foot off the gas and don't blow a team out that they should blow out. And they should have blown out Central Arkansas tonight, and they did. Simple as that. And I think as from a holistic view, that's a very good thing, very good sign of maturity for this team to be able to lock back in and take another opponent serious and beat them the way they should.
Steve, do you agree?
Yeah, and I had this. I do have a lot of notes. I don't know that I really have 6 pages because I was watching some back episodes of the Kardashians too and taking notes on that as well. But Collin, I did have a question. Every team seems to develop its own culture, right? Do you agree with that? I mean, every year, right. in the 17 years you played at IU. I think every team probably had a different culture.
Right.
This team just does not seem to want to come out of the blocks and start fast in a basketball game, but they slide into it. Talk about that and how you feel about that. And am I right there to say this is just becoming their culture of not being a fast-starting basketball team?
Right, and I think I've been part of teams that are like that, and I think ultimately what it comes down to is that when you get up against a team like Duke or you get up against good teams or teams that are, average, but they come out and jump on you, you dig yourself a hole, and then you make that comeback and everything that much more difficult. So if this continues, if this is the culture, which statistically it is, it kind of scares me in tournament situations because you do this against the wrong team in the tournament on when the other team has a good night. There's really nothing you can do about it. You already dig yourself a hole for the second half, and momentum's not your way, and it just puts you in a bad situation.
And that was my next part of the question. You just answered it, but I'm going to go ahead and make myself look intelligent here. How dangerous is that in big games? Because if you don't come out and at least play even basketball, or you don't kind of get an edge going at the beginning against a tournament caliber team, that's pretty dangerous, isn't it, Collin?
Oh yeah,
Mike?
100%. And
either one, Mike. Either Mike or Collin. Mike,
go ahead, Mike.
Football too. You know what I'm talking about.
I have one question for you, Steve, though. I have seen teams that were like that became not like that. And you were on one of those teams. 1981, Indiana was a team that probably until early January had a tendency to start off slow almost every game. If I remember right, you guys barely squeaked by Ball State. You lost a couple games to Notre Dame, Kentucky, but those are good teams, not counting that. You guys struggled with Oral Roberts. You lost to North Carolina. You struggled with Kansas State. You lost to Clemson. You struggled with Rutgers. I think you guys only beat them by like 5 or 6 points. Then you lose to Pan American. You came back, you beat Michigan State, and really, until you get to the end of January, there weren't too many blowouts on you guys' record, no matter who you played either.
Okay, now there's a 3-part answer to this. The first one's funny. The first thing we had to change that was fear, because we were afraid we'd get the crap kicked out of us from Bob Knight if we didn't change that. Number 2 was there was a period of time when our on-court leadership was wrestling with our bench leadership, and I'm going to use Thomas and Knight as to who had control of that team, and we were all in angst over who to follow. And if you think that's not true, you had to be in the locker room and see what went on in the locker room between Knight and Isaiah. And literally, it was a dogfight every day in practice, because Isaiah saw red and Knight saw blue, and they're both basketball geniuses. So part of that slow process there was trying to figure out who we were going to really go on the court and follow. And we finally figured it out, and this was Bob Knight coaching at his absolute finest. We came into practice one day, and we had gotten our butts handed to us in the last game I ever lost at IU. And he walked in, and he just talked to us about the fact, look, and he said in the same sense, I can't use the phraseology he used because it's not appropriate at this time, but he said, I relinquish. I give it to Isaiah. And we never got touched again. So once we did that, we all of a sudden became the most dominant team in college basketball overnight. I mean, and it wasn't that we got better. We just got focused. So Collin and Mike, can this team get focused to where Archie can change that culture like Knight did for our team in 81? Can that happen to this team, or is this just the full-time culture of this basketball team? Because I still see no on-court leadership on this basketball team.
I think the culture is what you create as a coach. And I think when you have a problem with your team starting slow, you got to figure out something to get them not to. I don't think this team is destined to always start off down 10 points no matter who they're playing, Collin. I think there is something that can be done. I don't know what that thing is, and luckily they're not paying me millions of dollars to figure it out. But I would say there's something here that can be done. And the thing that I would like to see, and you all call me crazy, but I'd start Devontae Green. I'd play 3 guards, and I'd run with Justin Smith and Juwan Morgan, because I think those are the 5 guys that give you the most energy on the court.
That's my next question, but I'm going to let Collin answer first. But my next point of my 6 pages of notes is Smith and Green. But go ahead, Collin. Answer Mike's question. You know Archie better than any of us. Can he fix this? Can he get this team to jumpstart, or is this just not fixable with this team?
Yeah, I think that he can. Just because I think that he's.
Is he trying to?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, there's no coach in the world that gets paid $4 million a year that can't see that his team's starting off slow.
Hey, wait a second. There is one, and Steve knows who I'm going to say. It's Marvin Lewis. But go ahead.
Marvin Lewis, yeah. Marvin Lewis. I'm the Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah, I was going there. You beat me to the punch.
Well, it might be 2. You got Hugh Jackson, too, but go ahead.
Friday on Freaky Friday or whatever we call it.
Freaky Friday? Sounds like a swinger show.
What?
But go ahead, Collin.
Oh, my goodness. Anyway.
Go ahead, Collin. Talk to the culture of Miller and why this team has developed into such a slow-starting basketball team. I don't get it.
Quite candidly, it's not that Coach Miller doesn't have a certain sense of urgency. It's not. I mean, this is solely based, and this kind of goes back to what Mike said, solely based on the quote-unquote leaders of this team, and if they want to bring the sense of urgency as well, because the coaching staff can bring all the sense of urgency they want. At the end of the day, the players are the players. They're the ones on the court carrying out the duties and everything that the coaches try to instill. Like I said, top to bottom, it starts with the players and getting people motivated and, being vocal and getting into somebody and challenging people and stuff of that nature. And it starts in practice and it translates to the games. And you can't just do it when lights come on.
Yeah, and the problem I've always had, real quick, I want to ask
question, Collin, tying right into that is,
just ignore me.
Does this team just think it's too talented? Is they relying on talent too much? Do they think they're better than they are? Because I would think they'd be wanting to change that and not come out against Central Arkansas and be down 10 points the first 3 minutes into the game. I mean, do they just think that they're okay because they're grinding like no tomorrow? But you live by the sword, you're going to end up dying by the sword. It's what's going to happen to them.
All right.
Do they just think they're that good or what?
I don't know.
Oh my God!
I guarantee.
I'm seeing a UCLA banner up on the local TV.
Yeah, they're playing Cincinnati. Gone. No, they're not. They're playing UC right now.
Oh, what channel? ESPN?
Yeah, I could have went to that game, but I had to sit here and talk about the Central Arkansas Bears. But go ahead,
Collin. I'm sorry. I'm interrupting.
Mike, you got the opportunity to speak about the Central Arkansas Bears.
Oh,
anyways.
No. You're not on ESPN. You're on ESPN, too.
All right. Let Collin talk. People can flip around and watch the game if they want.
So what was the question? I forget. You guys got off on a tangent.
I don't even know. Steve, what was your question?
Does this team think, and I'll rephrase it, I'll redirect, Counselor. Does this team, because I watch LA Law, does this team think that it's just so talented it doesn't need to really be worrying about the starting of a game? Or should they be more concerned about this as players? Because I agree with you. Players play, coaches coach, and the game is scored based on how players play.
All right.
Do they need to rethink what they're doing, or are we just okay with – because they're being successful?
No, well, see, the thing is they weren't successful against Duke, and those are the teams that we're trying to beat in the tournament. Those are the teams that we have to beat in the tournament. We're not beating Central Arkansas in the tournament.
Right.
So, at the end of the day, no, we're not okay with it. As fans, we're not okay with it. We don't like to see it because it doesn't give us comfort. It doesn't ease our blood pressure or whatever you want to call it. Blowing a team out by 20 at the beginning is much easier than doing it in the second half or starting out 10 down, in the first few minutes. But at the end of the day, all it's going to come down to is this team winning? No, I do not agree with the way they start because, as I just stated, we're not playing Central Arkansas in the tournament. But I agree with the end result? Yes. Very simply put.
Mike?
What?
They had a comment, but if you don't want to talk, I'll make my comment.
About what? I mean,
my comment is this. What I see this basketball team is kind of like, I refer everything back to like NASCAR. It's kind of like you've lost first, second, and third gear, and this team starts in fourth gear. And when you start in fourth gear, if you ever driven a manual, Collin, which you probably never have driven a manual. So,
I have. It's okay,
you know that if you start in fourth gear, you're going to you're not going to go anywhere real quick, real fast. But once you get the gears wound up, you start flying. And, any driver will tell you, if I have to have one gear, I want top gear because I'll start slow, but I'm going to finish strong.
How about
I think that's the culture of this basketball team.
How about this? This team had a lot of injuries. They've only played a handful of games with their entire team there. They're
playing Central Arkansas, Mike.
They've played 11 or 12 games. I don't care who they're playing.
They're
what
not that
I'm telling
banged
you
up.
is this. What?
They're not that banged up right now.
No, not right now. But what I'm saying is they're winning. They're what, 10-2?
Right, yeah, they're winning.
They're getting good at the toughest part of the schedule, and I will go through this again. A lot of people out here listening are Indianapolis Colts fans. You're an Indianapolis Colts fan. When you are playing at the exact top of your game at the start of the season, in the middle of the season, you're usually not at the end of the season. If you look at Villanova last year, Villanova lost back-to-back games in the middle of January. They get dropped to like 10th. Everybody's freaking out, including you, saying they're not that good. And I told you, Jay Wright was their coach. He's a good coach. They would fix it. And then we fast forward to the national championship game where you picked Michigan and called me names because I picked Villanova. So I think this. Archie Miller is a good basketball coach. He may be better than good. That's yet to be seen 10 years down the road. But what I do believe is this. I believe he's a good enough coach that whatever he needs to do to fix this, he will do. I trust him as a coach. This is not Mike Davis, not Kelvin Sampson. I think Archie Miller knows what he's doing with this team. I think this team continually gets better. And tonight, if I would have told you a couple days ago IU's going to win by 33, you'd have been good with that. They came out. They struggled at the start a little bit. Fennessy gets hurt. They still pull away. Devontae Green came in and played really well. Juwan Morgan will show you that if he doesn't need to take the game over, he's willing to let other guys score the points. So in the end, I think we're getting a little bit too excited about this. Now, I think if 3 weeks from now we're still having this problem, then it's a discussion. But until that time, when you're playing Central Arkansas, Steve, you know yourself. When you're playing a team in the Indiana Classic or the Hoosier Classic that's not very good, it's hard to get up. And in most of these games, if you watch Duke and Princeton the other night, that was a 26-21 game. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, Duke wins the game by like 300 points. And I think when you come out and you're a huge favorite, there's the other team, Central Arkansas, is playing at Indiana. They're going to come out, they're going to throw their best shot in those first 8 to 10 minutes. And Indiana is gradually just going to overwhelm them because they're the better team. And I think that's what we saw tonight, and I think that's all right.
And you see, Mike, in my infinite genius, I drew that eloquent rebuttal out of you. I think you eloquently explained, and I buy your story lock, stock, and barrel. But I drew it out of you. I had to draw it out of you. Collin.
Yeah, you had to draw it out
of me. Oh, my goodness.
Collin, I'm going to give you 3 names. Can I ask you about 3 names?
Yes.
Smith.
Okay. Well.
Best athlete on the team?
Like vertical jump, yes. Best overall athlete, no. Not in my opinion.
No?
No. But he is the most
athletic player on the team.
No, I disagree
well,
with
there's
that.
a difference between being athletic and being an athlete.
What's the difference between... Well, I just want to hear Steve's explanation now. What's the difference between being athletic and being an athlete?
Athletic means you have the skills. Being an athlete means you can utilize your skills. It's pretty simple, Mike. Come on, you're a coach. You know that.
No, because I don't believe you're right there. But go ahead, Collin.
What do
you do with Justin Smith? Do you keep starting him? You keep playing him? I mean,
he made a lot of great plays
tonight. Yeah, he played great tonight, but he also made
it's a wild card.
Tonight.
Right.
He's a wild card.
Do
you stay with him?
I think you got to stay with him because I think that at long term he can be great for the team. I think that we need him. I think that you just have to keep grilling him and grilling him in film sessions and praising him in film sessions, just reinforcing the good and the opposite of the bad. So I fully believe that he has the ability to be very pivotal part of this season. And a vital asset to this team.
Should he be starting right now?
Who would you start ahead of him?
That wasn't the question. Don't answer a question with another question. That's not appropriate.
Ask a better question.
If I want it to be. It's appropriate if I want it to be.
Yes, I agree.
No, I don't think he should be starting. I'd bring him off the bench because I think you can minimize his damage by bringing him off the bench and playing him in more limited role at appropriate times when you need the athleticism.
Yeah, but wait a second,
I probably
Steve.
Would be working to develop Deron Davis.
If you've got a big concern with this team, okay. I am, because you do it to me all the time, so I figure it's all right. But if you've got Justin Smith and you're worried about slow starts, Justin Smith's the guy that could come in and jumpstart you right from the beginning.
He can, but
Deron can only play limited minutes.
Quick too.
Yeah, Davis has been hurt. He's still working his way back. Who are you going to play there?
Let's get him worked back. I mean, Big Ten season starts in a week and a half. What are we waiting to work him in for? I mean, why aren't we doing it right now against Central Arkansas?
Well, they did, but it doesn't matter who you're playing if he's hurt.
Tonight and let him sweat his gahunes off and say, you know what, get your ass in shape and go play.
But what if the doctor
says
win this game
with or without
he's not
you,
prepared?
But I'm going to get you ready to play and get you in shape.
Dr. Steve. But all right, so Steve, who would you start over Justin Smith?
Who would I start?
Yeah.
Well, I'm still have part of my questions. Before I get to that, I'll write that down. Who would I start?
Oh,
let me write that down on my notes.
Just answer the question. It's the same question you asked Collin.
Because it's a three-part question.
It's not a three-part question. It's one simple
Green,
one.
Mike, what would you do with Devontae Green? Does he need to be playing more?
I would start him. I would start him over Durham.
Right.
I'd start Fennessy. I would start those three with Smith and Morgan. And I think you got the five guys most likely to start off well. And I also think that you've got at least three guys there that I think can be leaders. I would start.
Who are the three guards?
Instead of Durham, I would start Green.
Who are the three guards you'd start?
Green, Langford, Fennessy.
Okay.
Agreed. But you see, there's a difference, Mike, is that Knight had the genius that he never started me because he knew I got a stud coming in off the bench.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was his mindset.
And then they would bring Jimmy Thomas in, and then he would think, hey, Risley's mom is going to get all pissed off and not bake me cookies anymore if I don't let him play.
Okay, so I'm seventh man in tonight. Okay, very good. Maybe eighth if LaFay's feeling good. So
I don't even remember anybody named LaFay. So if you're out there,
I don't know.
I
think Deron Davis needs to, or Devontae Green needs to get more minutes. Collin, what do you think? Should he be playing more?
Yeah, circumstantially, I think you do. I mean, I think he had a really good night tonight. I think what he can do, his good way outweighs his bad. But at the end of the day, none of us, all we see is games. And is a results-oriented business, but there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that we don't necessarily see.
But here's the question, Collin, for you: Does Devontae get better with minutes, or does he get worse with minutes? I mean, in your observation, you practice against him, you played against him. Does he get better with minutes, or does he struggle the more he plays? Or does he create more mistakes or more opportunities?
Well, see, that's the thing. There's no answer to that because he's like Troy. Troy was, because you never know what Troy you're getting. You either get great Troy or you get throw the ball into the third row Troy. And Devontae's the same way.
In the NBA now?
Yeah. And so Troy's in Sacramento.
Toronto?
He's a two-way.
That's OG.
Sacramento.
Yeah, OG. Sacramento.
No, he's in Sacramento. So, I mean, there's no answer to it, and that's what makes Coach Miller's and the staff's job hard, is because you just don't know what you're getting, and that's why it's a game-by-game basis in my eyes.
Fair assessment. All right, what's going on with McRoberts and Pfister, Collin? Has McRoberts just kind of like vanished? Is he done with his 15 minutes of fame?
Well, the thing is with Zach is I think it's partially his back, but I'm not going to give all the credit to that, in my opinion. It's just the dude plays hard. I just think that his circumstances with his injury has not allowed him to do what he does best, and that's go balls to the wall, diving all over the floor, doing everything all the time, flying through the lane for rebounds and everything like that. And I feel like he feels a little bit more pressure offensively sometimes when he really doesn't have to. I think he should focus 100% on defense and rebounding and just doing what he did last year. I feel like he's trying to.
Mike, do you think McRoberts is effective anymore on either side of the court? Do you think he's effective? I see him out there wandering.
I think that Coach Miller is waiting for the McRoberts he's used to seeing, and the question is, how long do you wait on that? If we had a guy playing like he played last year, may help solve your slow starts. I like him. I think he's a good basketball player. There's no doubt. We saw that last year. He plays hard. I would assume that Collin is right here, because he does not look like he did last year.
Agreed.
I'm 2 for 2. All right, what's my next one, Steve?
All right, Pfister. I mean, he's the guy's like vanished. I mean, we saw Pfister in the early part of the year, and he was an integral part of what Indiana was doing. Now it's like, did he even play tonight? I mean, let me see the box.
12 minutes, I think.
He scored.
Did he score?
The thing with he scored like 2 or 4 points.
He played 12
minutes,
like 2 for 5. Okay, so, but not significant minutes or not significant contributions. Again, what's happening, Collin?
The problem with Evan's game, and I ran into the same problem a little bit, so I had to diversify my game, was that Evan's game right now is easy to scout. It is a pick and pop every single time. They just switch it, and he doesn't really bang down the post, in my opinion. And then when they switch those guards onto him, they can push him out so he doesn't have the post depth that he needs to score. So I think that through the continuous offense that Coach Miller runs, it really is just ineffective for him to be in just because he's not doing a whole lot defensively.
And see, there's where you and I differ. I didn't have to diversify my game because being a bully is always necessary.
He's not a bully, though, Steve. He doesn't have that in his game, dude.
He doesn't have it in his game, which is something they need to. You know what? I'd be taking Pfister down to the far end. You guys still have the fifth basket down at the far end where you do the one-on-one work with people that are in the doghouse. You still have that down there?
Yeah.
I would take Pfister down there and take the charge drills and loose ball drills until he was bleeding all over the court and toughen that kid up. Because all he needs is toughened up.
I can see it. 30 for 30, the last days of Risley.
Yeah. Pfister is talented. He's got game. He just needs to get pissed off. He's not pissed off about – you can't play the game at that level and not be pissed off.
Hey, you know one thing I've discovered?
Collin, just get mad. Get mad because you're not playing. Get mad because you're not getting shots. Just get pissed off, Collin, and you'll be Collin. It's the Collin that I know. And I used to say that you can talk to my wife. You can record it. Just get pissed off. And Pfister they're going to need him down the stretch because they're going to play some teams where he's going to become an important part of that basketball team. And if they don't piss him off right now and get him mad about playing, I think they're going to lose him and lose what skills he has. My opinion.
Well, I think mentally, some people just don't play like that, Steve. And you can make them bleed as much as you want.
I'd like to take my brain and put it in Pfister's body.
Hey, how about this?
Because
you could have made Ralph Sampson.
I did graduate.
Yeah.
From the Kelly School of Business.
But put it like this. If you took Ralph Sampson and had him do charge drills until he bled all over, he'd still be a sissy. And I'm not saying that Pfister's a sissy.
Yeah, right.
I'm just saying he needs to be more aggressive.
You got to find it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they're kind of, it seems to me like they're giving up on an asset all of a sudden. I don't know. Who knows what they're going to do. I mean, I'm not in the coach's huddle every time, so I don't know. Collin, we only had 12 turnovers, which is, again, it's another good turnover day for Indiana. Do you think that our turnovers come from sloppy play or from aggressive play?
Sloppy.
Do you really?
Yeah, see, I think.
Okay, explain. I'll tell you I think it's aggressive. Let's debate that real quick. Mike, get in.
Okay. A lot of times.
We can't all talk at once. So go ahead, Collin.
I think a lot of times it's turnovers like we see with sloppy. There was a couple tonight. I was at the game, and there were a couple where we would get a steal, we'd just throw it, and they'd jump it, or we would make it just a sloppy pass. So, I mean, in my opinion, I know what a scoring pass is for these guys, or an attacking pass is for these guys, or a move or anything like that, and I know what they're capable of, and I think that it's mental errors and mental lapses.
Mike?
I completely agree with Collin.
Okay.
I think a lot of this time is trying to be individuals, trying to do something a little bit more than needs to be done. Just throw a pass. You don't have to throw it between your legs and off your ass.
And see, I hate statistics, but in a minute I'm going to give you a statistic that I think is going to make you guys rethink what you're thinking. Maybe, maybe not. You both are smart. You'll have an answer. I think that this team is young and being aggressive. I tried to watch the game today from the point of turnovers, and I said, why are they making turnovers? Justin Smith is a loose cannon. He's either great or he's like, oh my God, what are we thinking? It's both ends of the candle with him. But really, that's the only one. I think that Juwan Morgan and Romeo Langford are becoming one. They're like becoming Yoda and who's the young Jedi? Luke Skywalker. They're becoming one. They're becoming one mindset. They made some passes to each other today in plays. And I thought that's all world right there. What they're doing. I think they're being aggressive. And the statistic I'm going to give you was at some point the announcers in the game talked about that they had 21 assists on 29 made field goals. That's pretty strong, guys. That's teamwork. That's guys making plays happen. And that's what makes me think the turnovers are more being aggressive than they are being stupid. I mean, 21 assists on 29 made field goals at some point in the game. Collin, is that pretty strong?
Yeah, that's strong, but at the end of the day, that doesn't change that the turnovers can't. That doesn't mean that the turnovers can't be sloppy. In my opinion,
so
I think that's a very
25. They ended up with 25 assists on 36 made field goals,
which is great, phenomenal.
Shit, that's not being sloppy.
That's phenomenal.
That's taking chances. That's playing to win, not playing not to lose.
The assist to bucket ratio has nothing to do with if the turnovers are sloppy or scoring. You can have mental lapses to where they're sloppy.
Tom, I coached you in AAU, but when did I ever tell you not to shoot?
Well, in AAU, I had the green light that, if I was open.
Right. I think you have to give your players a green light whenever they. Yeah, I think that's part of. You're right. Players win games. You have to make sure your players know they have the green light, or then they start playing not to lose. Then they start making more mistakes because they play not to make mistakes.
Right.
And that was a Knight fallacy. That was a problem that many people had with Bob Knight, was they got so wrapped around how he was delivering information, they started playing to not make mistakes. And because they didn't want to get yanked out of a game, or they didn't want to get in the doghouse, or they didn't want to get yelled at, or whatever. But I'm proud of this team because I think they're being aggressive. I'm okay with the mistakes you're making. If you're going 25 assists on 36 made two-point field goals, I'll take that ratio any day, and I'll win most games with that ratio. Mike?
Tell me what it was in the games before they played in Central Arkansas.
Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, I don't have all the stat sheets right in front of me. That's a good question. That's something that we could get our crack intern
wait a second.
At the game right now.
I don't care if our intern's on crack or not. My question is this.
Don't say that. He's not on crack. His parents are listening to this.
Well, you're the one that said that. But all right.
I
thought maybe we had an actual crack intern. I didn't think you were talking about our writer.
Oh, my goodness.
Now I'm confused. What do I do? All right. So let's look at the Butler game. How many turnovers were in the Butler game? The Butler game.
I have stat sheets right here. I've got all my stat sheets right here.
You get all your stat sheets
we're making
right
a
here.
Stupid point here.
Yeah.
Okay, against UC Davis, they were 11 assists on 24 made field goals.
How about
Not
this?
good.
Nobody cares about UC Davis. Listen to this. Butler game.
Pulling back the stat sheet.
The starters, all right? The starters had 11
that's
assists.
Way too much ciphering for me.
The starters had
Jethro
11
Bodine.
assists to 13 turnovers. I think that's sloppy. I think the reason it's not as sloppy today is because they're not playing Butler, they're playing Central Arkansas. And I'll bet if we look back through this, it'll be like that on every one. And if you look at the backups, you got 7 assists, you got 2 turnovers because Devontae Green was 5 assists, 1 turnover. So my point is this. I think you're reading too much into a win against Central Arkansas. When you look just one game back, it would say that me and Collin are correct.
Yeah, but you have to understand, Mike, I come from a mentality of like our opponent is not our opponent. Our opponent is our ability to play to our own capability.
I do this.
So
if they would have played to their own capability tonight, they'd have won the game by 100 points.
Head that I don't care. It doesn't matter who I'm playing. If I play to my abilities, we're going to win.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we only had 1 offense and 1 defense, and why we have a ring. It's because we were taught to play to the closest to our capabilities as we possibly could. I think Indiana's getting closer to that every game they play. I don't give a crap about Central Arkansas. This wasn't a test about who we were going to play. We all knew we were going to blow this game out. But what I wanted to see was what I saw was I like that ratio.
Against a horrible defensive team, you can sit there and preach all this, well, we want to just play up to the best of our – if you think Indiana played anywhere near the best they could tonight, we got a problem because Central Arkansas should not be within 30 points of Indiana or 33 points of Indiana if Indiana's playing well. So I don't buy that at all. What I buy is this. When I look at those stats, the same stats you recited, in the Butler, Louisville, Penn State, Northwestern, at a deficit in almost every one of those games. So you can't tell me that Coach Knight would have been happy with the performance tonight because he probably would have told you at the end, just remember we played Central Arkansas. Because you could say that.
Coach Knight wasn't happy when he hit the $400 million lottery. Jesus Christ, he was never
which makes
happy.
me wonder why you're all right with this stuff.
I'm not all right. I see improvement.
But once again, I will say that I see improvement when they come out against Michigan and play that way.
All right. So you're Big Play Ray. No problem.
Big Play Ray? What the hell does that mean? No, I'm here.
You think we're only good when we're playing big teams?
You can beat up all the junior high teams in the world, and it don't mean shit if you're a varsity team. Tell me what you do against a varsity team.
Collin.
What?
What is the strength of this basketball team?
That's pretty easy. I think the strength of the team is essentially they grind wins out. They're grinders. You know, I think that they, majority of the time, aside from the Duke game, put themselves in a position to win the game at the end of the game every game. Whether that's a good or bad thing depends on who we're playing. If we're in barely in a position to win a game against a team like we played tonight, then that's a bad thing. But if we're in a game in a position to win like we did against Butler, it's a great thing. I think our resiliency and putting ourselves in grinded out situations to where we can win games is our best attribute as a team.
Okay, Mike, can you ask me a question?
Yes.
You asked me what's the weakness of this basketball team?
I'm going to ask you a question. No, I'm going to ask you something else first. What was the assist to turnovers again tonight?
Assist to turnovers was, let me see here. Let me go back to Indiana. 12 turnovers to 25 assists. So over 2-1.
All right.
2-1 assists for turnovers.
You know, when Louisville beat Central Arkansas by 50 points, they were like 27-6. But go ahead. What do you think the weakness or the strength of this team is, Steve?
No, Collin answered the strength.
Okay. What's the weakness, Steve?
Post defense. These guys still have gotten nowhere closer to being good post defense basketball team. They still give up way too many points easy inside. Very
I
weak
have a
opponents.
question for you, though. I have a question.
They don't help out. They don't. Where the weakness comes from, Mike, is not that the poor post defense. It's the fact that they don't get into position. I'm more appalled at the fact that Indiana doesn't get into position to help than the fact that they don't help. And I'm thinking, okay, this is on Archie Miller. If they're not getting in position to help, what are we teaching them in practice? Because they're nowhere near. They're still playing one-on-one defense. And they're not playing team defense. And I think to play at the level that Indiana wants to play at, they've got to learn to play team defense. Collin, am I right or wrong?
I agree they have to learn how to play team defense, but what was the points in the paint tonight?
What was what?
The points in the
points
paint.
in the paint tonight.
Points in the paint. Let me see. The biggest lead, turnovers. Points in the paint. UCA 16, Indiana 48.
Oh, then what's your problem?
Yes.
I mean, they did what they're supposed to do. How can you say that's a weakness? Because they beat this team like 32 points in the paint.
Okay. All right. Point well taken. Yeah,
you know what you want to say, though. You want to say it's because it was Central Arkansas.
Basketball team to be, much as you're trying to use the Butler and Louisville games against me, I'm saying that's an anomaly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the 48 points in the paint to us is more a testament to Morgan and Langford figuring it out and Justin Smith having a good game. I attribute that to that more than I would say that's consistent. My opinion.
You know what I'd attribute it to? I'd attribute it to the fact that Central Arkansas is a really bad basketball team with no post players.
Yeah. Well, and that too. That too.
But how about this also? We talk about post defense, and I know what you're talking about. I agree the boxing out's terrible, but you're also looking at a team that predominantly plays with 3 guards. Doesn't that have something to do with it? And I know you could be anybody of any size and box somebody out, but still, to me, I think if you want your cake and you want to eat it too, I mean, you're starting 3 guards, you're playing 3 guards most of the game, and then you're wondering why you can be taken advantage of inside.
Okay. No, I mean, I don't want to argue with you when there's no point to argue. It's a good point.
Oh, okay. So I was right. Colin, do you want to say something?
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's just what Steve said earlier. If you're going to play those 3 guards, then you're going to have to rely on that help defense on the backside, or it's not going to be there.
Well, if you play 3 guards.
But Langford's what, 6'6"?
Yeah, but he's still a guard.
6'6".
He's not really a point guard. He's 6'6" is, pretty common size.
But he's pretty much always played a guard, and it's not like he's
How tall
huge.
is Devontae Green? I don't even know. How tall is Devontae Green?
Not tall. He's
6'2",
under 6'2".
6'1", 6'2", 6'3". I don't know. I don't know how tall he is. I don't even know.
Yeah, I'm Fantasy's
6
what?
foot,
6
6'1".
foot. Yeah. So
yeah,
you're not real big.
To me, was people never realized that Bob Knight was 6'5", and people used to always say to me, they said, the first thing they'd say to me when they met Bob Knight, they'd say, I never realized he was that big. Weren't you scared to death of him? But because he's always surrounded by people who are 6'8" and 6'9", so you never knew that Bob Knight was actually 6'5".
Yeah, but Risley was scared to death of him.
That's a pretty big dude.
Yeah, Risley was still scared to death of him.
We talk about Archie Miller's probably 5'11", which is no big deal. It doesn't mean anything. It's just that when you stand around guys that are taller than everybody else in the world, you lose proportion of size. Anyway,
right.
Huh.
So
wonder how we got
interesting thing. And anything else? Colin?
I got nothing else.
I have another
we want
question.
to wrap this up? Colin, any final words?
I have another question.
What?
I picked this up from another website because I was tracking some other websites as I was watching the game and some other Twitter feeds and people making comments. Do we get the charging call in college basketball right, or should there just no longer be a charging call in college basketball? Should we assume that the offensive player always has the right of pathway to the basket and the defense has to respect that pathway if he's making a move?
No, I think there still has to be a charging call. 100%. I don't think we get it right. I think it's virtually impossible to get it right every time without going to the monitor every time, which would slow down the game, which would make everybody super frustrated. So at the end of the day, it doesn't make me happy when they mess up the charge call, the charge block call, but I'd rather them just get the game going, unless it's in a big-time situation towards the end of the game or something like that, or towards a big player with 2 or 3 fouls or whatever. That would change the course of the game. But it's a very, very hard position for the refs to be put in, situation-wise, and everything of that nature. So It is what it is, and we just have to live with it.
Okay, Mike, what percentage of charging calls do you think they get right in college basketball?
75%.
You really think they do?
I think this. I think there's only about 25%.
I would have gone 65.
I would think that there's 25% that they completely blow. I think the rest are calls that are some question. And, I mean, you don't realize how fast the game is till you're on the court watching the game or reffing the game or playing the game. Unless you're right on the floor, you can't go.
Sorry,
what?
Kyle Dye just scored for Virginia. It pisses me off. Go ahead.
He's now scored more points than you did in college, too.
And now he's got more college points than I do.
He had that after his third game.
I know, he did.
Does he got the man bun?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm just joking. So, go ahead. I think they miss charging more than any other call in basketball.
Yeah, and 65, 75% would probably say that you're right.
And I would think they just need to take it out of college basketball. And unless it's so hatchet job, it should almost not be charging anymore. It's just be an intentional foul. That if the offensive player has a pathway and he's going, that needs to be respected, and you need to find a way to guard him without stepping in his pathway.
But wait a second, Steve.
He's earned that pathway once he goes.
If they took it out, how would you get Fitzner to toughen up?
Take loose ball drills and take the charge drills.
You can't take a charge, though, because there's no such thing.
No, those are drills, Mike. Those are things you do in practice to make people bleed. That's a part of 30 for 30.
You know what? There's a bunch of people in Indianapolis now thinking, man, I should have stayed at my son's practice when I dropped him off to your team. Collin, did you ever have to take charges till you bleed in Steve's practices?
No.
Okay. I figured he was all talk. All right, Steve, do you have any final words?
And you wonder why he has a Big Ten ring. There you go. There's your answer.
He does have a Big Ten ring. So, do you have any final words?
I do.
Go ahead, Collin.
I just want prayers and thoughts out to Terry Hutchins and his family. I don't know if you guys heard, but that's a tough situation for them. So just everybody keep your prayers and thoughts out to him and his family.
Steve?
Yeah, I've known Terry for his whole time in Indianapolis. He actually moved into the same neighborhood I lived in. And there's probably no sports writer who's been more devoted to presenting IU in fair balance and in a good way over the last 23, 25 years, how long he's been reporting that than Terry. And it's a tough situation for him and his family. And I agree, Collin, thank you for bringing that up. We just reach out to his family and say, Hoosier Nation, I'm sure, is very much behind Terry. So well said, Collin. Good job.
Yeah, I second Collin's thoughts. Prayers to the Hutchins family. Tomorrow at noon, Survive in Advance, we'll have Ottawa Red Blacks quarterback Trevor Harris on. So Steve is going to be up all night studying Canadian football. Do you watch Canadian football, Collin?
Not a day in my life.
Really?
I was going to say, Collin, you're welcome to sub for me tomorrow if you want to. I'm going to go surfing. Because I miss surfing tonight.
Trevor Harris is huge in Canada with a country of 10 million people. And
I don't live in Canada. The only thing I care about Canada is the Iditarod. And that's not even in Canada.
That's in Alaska. I've been telling you this for years, Steve. All right, guys.
I said it before you did. Because I love dogs. So I love the Iditarod, as long as you don't abuse the dogs while you're doing the Iditarod.
Okay. SPCA, if you want to complain about the Grilling Truce, send all those messages on Twitter at SPCA.
You know why you don't? Because 45 cents of every dollar you give the SPCA goes to pay their salaries.
Yeah.
You give to your local shelters.
That's how most charities
give to your local shelters, everybody's listening. Don't give to the SPCA. Give to your local shelters. They take the money, go to the Petco, buy dog food, buy cat food, buy bathing equipment, whatever. They don't pay themselves salaries because they're all employed by other people. Don't give it to the SPCA.
All right.
Don't start me on that, Mike.
That's a public service announcement from Steve.
You let your dogs drink out of your toilet.
I don't let them. They just demand it sometimes. All right. You can check out our Survive in Advance for today, where we had XFL Commissioner Oliver Luck on the show. So make sure you check that out, thegrizzlytruth.net. We'll be back Saturday night after the Jacksonville Dolphins try to invade Assembly Hall and play the Indiana Hoosiers. What time's that game? Is that 6 or 7, Collin? Steve?
Did Collin leave?
I don't know. Do you know what time the game is? 6 or 7?
I'm right here.
What time's the game Saturday night, Collin?
Well, right after the game. Why not?
What time is the game?
I think it's at 6.
I think it is too, but I wasn't
Saturday?
sure. So I figured Collin would know. He's younger than us and has a better memory. All right, guys.
It's at 6.
We will check you out Saturday night. Make sure you check thegrizzlytruth.net for a post-game article about this game from Cole Hanna, who is our new Indiana beat writer. Jim Coyle tomorrow morning on thegrizzlytruth.net with your Indiana sports news. So, for Collin Hartman, Steve Risley.
Mike, can I say one thing?
No.
It wouldn't be tradition. Send all hate mail to me because Collin's fragile. So just send all the hate mail to me. Go ahead.
You're the only one that would get hate mail anyways, not me.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be directed at me. So just Collin's a fragile young man, so don't send him hate mail. If you have hate mail, it's probably going to be directed at me. So just send it to me. srisley34 on Twitter. I will respond to everybody with a humorous crack.
So,
second time he's brought up crack this show.
He's in LA now. All right, guys.
I'm in the middle of watching Breaking Bad. What can I say?
All right. Well, be quiet so you can hear it. Have you ever heard a show that you watched, or you just constantly talk through it and judge the people and what they're doing?
I'm like CNN, Constant Noise Network. I just keep talking.
I bet your wife needs to put headphones on that are hooked up to the TV so she can hear the shows. All right, guys. We're going to wrap it up. For Steve Risley, Collin Hartman, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.